Talk North listeners, we have a deal for you through our friends at Bite Squad, bitesquad.com, and the Bite Squad app. Use the promo code FOOTBALL anytime between December 27th and January 2nd. Use the promo code FOOTBALL, uppercase, to get $5 off your food order of $20 or more. That's $5 off orders of $20 or more. Go to bitesquad.com, the Bite Squad app. Use the promo code FOOTBALL. We appreciate everybody who has supported our relationship with Bite Squad. We appreciate Bite Squad for sponsoring the programs. And here is the program. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate it well this week. This is kind of our year-end show for Preps Today with John Millea, our prep show on TalkNorth.com. Thanks to our producer, Brandon Morton. Please download it before you listen, and if you'd like to advertise with us, you can reach me at talknorthpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks to our primary sponsor, gourmetparlorpizza.com. We'll tell you more about their business and their fundraising later in the show. Let's go to the stories of the year. Do you want to start with the coach?
Yes, we have a returning coach this year, Jim. Anna Brandt, a year ago, missed the girls' basketball season. She was the head coach at Heron Lake, Okabena. And basically, the things we're going to talk about today I went back through all the John's Journal stories from 2018, and these are in no particular order of importance, but these are just stories that I really enjoyed telling or that I thought really, about great people. So Anna Brandt was the coach at Heron Lake, Okabena. She's also in the National Guard. So I went to a game last year. Her dad, Neil, actually had taken over as head coach. He was a former high school head coach. So she was stationed in Iraq. She missed the whole season. I corresponded with her via email, got some photos of her, and talked to the kids on the team who knew she would be back. So she's back this year. She's back to head coaching. It's interesting, though, while she was gone, everything changed. She was the head coach at Heron Lake, Okabena. While she was gone, Heron Lake, Okabena, and Fulda basically started co-op teams in all sports. So they were the Heron Lake, Okabena, I'm not sure what. Now they're the Heron Lake, Okabena, Fulda Coyotes. So she came back, and team had a different name, some new kids from another school, but way to go, Anna. I may try to get down there here after the first of the year and revisit that story and see how it's going and meet her in person. That was one of the neater stories from last year.
That's really cool. I have a relative who went in the National Guard basically just to kind of get in shape and make a few extra bucks on the weekend.
That'll get you in shape.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, like he's in Iraq, he's in Afghanistan, he's doing really important work. He's had a tremendous career. It was really an amazing thing to watch, and thank you to anybody who would take that on behalf of our country. And a reminder, John Millea is the prep guru at mshsl.org. You can find John's journal there. He brings back great stories from all around the state. And, of course, that's kind of the basis of this podcast is John talking about those stories and some of his favorite reflections. Let's go to A Coach Walks Away.
Yeah, this was a guy we had on our podcast, Scott Stanfield,
the
former boys basketball coach at Brainerd. And after last season, he resigned. And a lot of times coaches just step aside, and you don't really know the reason. Scott made it very clear.
Yeah.
It was parents. Too much concern. Way much, this guy is a former law enforcement guy. He said, I had more trouble dealing with parents in a coaching job than I had in law enforcement. And so we had Scott and Charlie Campbell, who's the athletic director in Brainerd, two great men, and really interesting to have them. And you can go back, look through the podcast. You can find that interview, and it's really interesting. That kind of changed the tone as far as coaches and how some can be treated. And I commend Scott and Charlie for being so forthright with that. It's just, it really opened up a door that a lot of people don't want to walk through. And they did. They were just said, this is it. We have to deal with this problem. And, there's a new coaching staff in Brainerd now. I think they're having a good year, but you just wonder how often does this really go on when you hear of a coach stepping down. And they kind of just, like I said, slide away into the night. But the truth usually is kind of murky, but there was no murkiness to what happened in Brainerd a year ago, and I hope everybody learned a lesson, around the state about that, how to treat coaches, how to deal with coaches, and it was a very interesting conversation we had with those two guys.
Yes, absolutely. I appreciate you lining those up. Yeah. Let's do the commuter coach.
Yeah, the commuter coach. This was another guy we had on the podcast. Justin Morris was the coach of the Lyle Pacelli girls basketball team, which won its first state championship this past year in Class 1A. And this was the coach who lived in Omaha and coached a team, in Austin, Minnesota. Because, again, you can go back on the podcast and listen to that. You can go back, dial back on John's journal to earlier in the year. I wrote about this situation a couple times. He fell in love with a Minnesota girl who got a job in Omaha. And he decided, and he's not a teacher, he's a banker. And he moved to Omaha and made sure everybody was okay with it. He was going to miss some practices. He missed a couple of games, but he spent a lot of time on the highway coming back for basketball games, and they ended up as state champs. And one of the more remarkable stories I've ever seen in any level of sports.
No, absolutely.
It's amazing.
Let's do inspiring athletes.
Yeah, there's a handful here of kids that as I went through the John's Journal stories, just kind of neat stories. So there's a young lady at South St. Paul High School, Tessa, Alaska. Tessa wanted to be a Nordic skier. Her school doesn't have Nordic skiing.
This is one of my favorite stories of the year, definitely.
Yeah, but just down the road, Henry Sibley High School has Nordic skiing, so they worked it out between the two schools. She practiced with the kids from the other school. They embraced her, became great friends. She still competed as the one-person team from South St. Paul. South St. Paul got her Nordic skiing wear to compete in, and it was really a neat story to do, just how she wanted to do this, and her school didn't offer it. But, she wasn't officially an athlete at Henry Sibley, but she was a part of the team. Just not when the results were released, but it's really a neat story of grown-ups from two schools working together and letting her have that opportunity and making new friends all around. Another one, speaking of inspiring athletes, Kennedy Haig, a gymnast from Detroit Lakes. I wrote about her last winter. 2 broken arms. Mm-hmm. Terrible fall on an apparatus, 2 broken arms, but when I caught up to her last season, she was at a meet in the Twin Cities here. One arm basically healed, the other one not. She could do some things. I have to catch up with her this year and see how she's doing. But one very serious set of arm injuries. She's got more hardware in that arm than Ace hardware in the store. But biggest smile on her face. Again, wants to be part of the team, whether she can compete or not. And just tells you a lot about what this means for kids to be on the team. And she has a twin sister, another great gymnast on the team, and just really, really inspiring. And boy, talking about inspiring, I've got 2 more here. Kristen DeYoung, a dancer at Montevideo High School with a prosthetic leg. Come on,
right.
She's a dancer, with a prosthetic leg. Again, the happiest, smilingest kid you'd ever want to see. Loves what she does, works hard. And is part of the team. She's out there dancing. I saw them at a event at her high school, and just go back and find that story. I went back and saw it. Sometimes I'm getting old. I forget the details of these things, and I look at the pictures of these kids with those big smiles. It's unbelievable. And here's a wrestling story that really was special last year. Michael Suda. He's now a college wrestler from Pipestone. He's ended his high school career with 3 state championships. He was adopted along with his sister from Ethiopia as 7 or 8 years old, I'm not sure. And his parents in Ethiopia, he has parents. They're not orphans. Basically said, we're going to send them to America. They need a better life.
Wow.
So he couldn't speak English. Ends up in Pipestone, Minnesota with this great family that has a whole bunch of other kids. And kind of fits into the wrestling room, finds his strengths in wrestling. I think he was a 3-sport athlete. I know he was a runner, a cross-country kid, and probably track too. And, and I asked him, how have you kept in touch with your mom and dad, other family in Ethiopia? And time had passed to the point where there are a whole bunch of different languages in Ethiopia. he needed a translator to talk to his mom and dad because English was his thing, and he'd forgotten his native language, and they didn't speak English. So he said it's kind of tough, but they know I'm doing well, and I'm happy they gave me this opportunity. And he's so grateful to his family and Pipestone and everybody there. So those, stories like those, it's just incredible what happens. It's not just, I rarely write about who won and who lost.
Right.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm not writing game stories. I'm trying to, tell these stories of just great high school kids and teams and coaches and officials and everybody else.
That's great stuff. Let's do Honoring a Hometown Hero next. First, let's thank our primary sponsor, gourmetparlorpizza.com. Again, if you'd like to sponsor the program or any of the shows on the network, we had about 145,000 listens last month. You can reach me at talknorthpodcast@gmail.com, or you can always look up my email at the Star Tribune website. Any way you want to reach me is fine. Gourmet Parlor Pizza has been supporting us for a couple of years now. They are located in Royalton, but what they really specialize in is fundraising.
You bet, Jim. Yeah, we can't thank them enough. They've been with us from the get-go here on this podcast. So gourmetparlorpizza.com, that's where you find all the info. And if you're doing any kind of fundraising, especially for your youth groups, sports teams, band fundraising trips. My kids, when they were in band especially, they go to China. They go to Switzerland. All these trips we're in, it's tons of fundraising. Anybody with kids, we've all been through this, and this is a great option for your group to raise a lot of money, have fun doing it, and they'll make it easy for you. Gourmet Parlor Pizza just takes your orders, they get you the pizza, you're good to go, and they've got a great long list of items you can choose from, all kinds of pizzas, ready rice crust, gluten-free options, tons of stuff. And pizza fries. Wait a minute, I just looked at the menu. Pizza fries.
Johnny got
I know
excited.
what I'm doing when we're done here. But yeah, they're our friends up in Royalton, Minnesota. Go to gourmetparlorpizza.com and also check the freezer sections at Cub Foods, Coburn's, and Kowalski's, because you just might find some good stuff from Gourmet Parlor Pizza.
Absolutely. Let's go to Honoring a Hometown Hero.
Yeah, I did a story. This is not a sports story. It's about one-act play, which is one of the fine arts activities the high school league sponsors. At Waseca High School, their one-act play performance from last year was a story of a soldier who's basically sitting on an IED, and if he moves, it's the end. It's not a true story. I think somebody wrote this, and a lot of high schools across the country have done this. But they dedicated it to a young man from Waseca named Caleb Erickson, who a few years ago, as a Marine, lost his life in Afghanistan. So I talked to the kids and everybody associated with the play, including Caleb's family. His dad was a big part of this, and it was just really touching how the two groups, the high school theater group and the family of this Marine, really became one family. And I reread the story the other day, and Caleb's dad, he was telling me how the first time he saw them perform this play, the quote was something like, I saw my son in their eyes. And, just the heartbreak of losing a child in a war like that. And nobody in Waseca knows this yet, but they're going to know it soon. The National Federation of High School Associations has an award called Heart of the Arts, and every state association can nominate a person, a group, whatever it is, for this Heart of the Arts award. So the Waseca one-act play will be the Minnesota nomination for that award. We'll see where that goes, but I'm putting that together as we speak here. Just a great, I'm so glad somebody in Waseca let me know about that. I saw the play. It was tremendous. Talked to all the kids and the family of Caleb, and really touching what some of these events can mean to people.
Yeah, great stuff.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap up the year in prep sports with our coach of the year.
Yeah, I'm going to go with, as coach of the year, Molly Casper. She was a guest on our podcast earlier in the year. She is the girls basketball coach at Eastview High School and was the softball coach. She coached two sports at a big school. After she had her second child over the summer, she's given up softball coaching. But the thing with Molly, as we remember from talking to her, was she stresses the importance of empowering young females. She does things with her athletes that that just, it's you just didn't ever used to hear about. All day seminars for female athletes at her school and other schools to just learn about things they need to know, and just Molly is more impressive to me than almost any coach I've ever known. So I'm going to call her our podcast coach of the year. And if you go back through the previous shows, you can listen to that. Just a very impressive